Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Hidden Variables, the podcast where we explore interesting people from all walks of life, sharing their fascinating stories and who are making a positive impact on our world. We are so honored today to have an extra special guest, the fantastic Paola Harris. Before we bring her on, let me tell you just a little bit about her amazing history. Paola Harris is an Italo-American photojournalist, an investigative reporter in the field of extraterrestrial phenomena research. She has a master's degree in education and is also a widely published freelance writer who has studied these phenomena since 1979. Paola has interviewed countless military personnel, astronauts, experiencers, and is on personal terms with many of the leading researchers in the field. She has worked closely with many of the top names in the UFO investigation arena, such as Dr. J. Allen Hynek, Colonel Philip Corso, Zechariah Sitchin, Monsignor Balducci, David Icke, Dr. John Mack, and the legendary Jaques Vallee. She has written 7 best-selling books. Paola also teaches history and photojournalism, as well as online classes in Exopolitics for Dr. Michael Salla's Exopolitics Institute, for which she is the International Liaison Director. Wow. We are very lucky to have Paola join us at the Contact Modalities Expo in Delavan, Wisconsin, early this May. Fascinating topic of NDEs, near-death experiences, and portals, as well as participating in an all-star panel discussing the contact modalities. And celebrating her 80th birthday at a very special cocktail and dance party, please help me welcome the fantastic Paola Harris to the show. Paola, welcome.
You mentioned the 80th birthday party. That's a part that's going to be really wild.
I think it's going to be just as wonderful as everything else that happens there because you're there. People love you, Paola, and really, I think they respect you so much that they're going to want to flock to you. You're probably going to get tired of it by the time that party's over on Saturday night, but we can't wait. So,
well,
thank you so much for being here. And Paola, really, you have such a vast body of work. Your whole life really has been dedicated to this work. And as really the only female investigative reporter and journalist for decades in this phenomenon, before some of the others came on, you are kind of the way shower for this whole thing, for all of us women who are in this field of extraterrestrial contact, consciousness, UFOs, you name it. So my first question is, how did all this get started?
Well, it got started when I was really quite mature. I didn't have experiences. I was the daughter of a diplomat. My father was the Italian consul for the state of Rhode Island. And I wasn't, I didn't become a citizen until 1972 after I got married. So the thing is that I was just always curious. People say, "Why did you do this?" So, I'm just curious. I love studying. I love looking at things, putting things together. And how did I do it? Well, I got a teaching degree late. I got my first degree in English in 1968, and then in 1979, I decided to become a teacher. And they gave me this class that nobody wanted, which was science fiction. And in 1979, I was lucky because there was Star Wars that came out. But there was also Close Encounters of the Third Kind. And Close Encounters is what blew me away, because Close Encounters seemed like it was real. So I went to a wedding in Evanston, Illinois, and knew that the Center for UFO Studies, CUFOS, was up there, and that Alan Hynek was behind it, Dr. Alan Hynek, and he's an astronomer. You know, you got all these stars behind you. It's very distracting.
Sorry. And my head's moving around, so.
I know. And so I went in to see what they had, because I was going to teach that course. And I had an emotional reaction to the movie. So I will tell you that. At the end, when Jaques Vallee's representation, Francois Truffaut, smiled and communicated with the ET, I began to cry.
Yeah.
For no reason. I began to cry. Little did I know that when I walked into CUFOS, for UFO Studies, Alan Hynek was there. And he actually found out from the secretary I was Italian. And he said, do you want to work with me and translate all my Italian, sightings and everything? And do you want to work with me? And I thought, wow. So he came to see me in Boulder several times. He never drove, so I always had to drive. He was like an absent-minded professor. He bought me a typewriter. In those days, it was a typewriter in 1980.
Exactly.
I got boxes of cases and letters. And I began to work with an astronomer. So, you didn't have to say, do you believe is it real? Get over it. It's real. And it's all there. And we have the data. And I worked with him till he died of a brain tumor in 1986.
Wow.
Never did I ever believe in a million years that in 2000, in about 2017, I would be working with Dr. Jaques Vallee on the Trinity case. In 5 years, where we would be going down to New Mexico 3 times a year, and we would write a best-selling book called Trinity. And I never dreamed it, just from a movie, it's like I saw the movie and everything came true. It's like, you be careful what you wish for. And here's the book Trinity, which is a bestseller.
It is such a great book to everyone.
And it shows that Trinity was the first crash, and it was seen by 2 little Hispanic boys in 1945, right after the atomic bomb. And I did 10 years, told them like Barbara Walters, 10 years of research. Anything I've ever researched has been in person, on location, and for like the Charles Hall case that everybody might know about took me 2 years. So it's not like you pick up a phone, you talk to somebody, and that's it.
Right. No, you've dug deeper than any researcher I can think of, other than maybe Jaques Vallee, right? And it's so, it's a dream of mine to eventually meet that man, because when I was 9, I had an experience with my brother out in the forest in Georgia, where we saw a huge mothership. We thought the woods was on fire. We saw a huge mothership. It had tones. It had colors. We lost time. Decades later, I found out, we were taken up there and going to the secret school, as Whitley Strieber likes to call it, with our star family. But what I have to say about this is, again, decades later, I go to the premiere showing where I lived of Close Encounters of the Third Kind. And at the end of the movie, there's the ship. I mean, it looked like that mothership in the movie. And I thought, how in the world did Steven Spielberg see what I saw when I was a kid? He must know something. And then much later on, I found out, that Francois Truffaut is actually playing or portraying Jaques Vallee in that movie, and Dr. Hynek was, had a cameo in that movie. But so that I have a great tie to that film as well. And it makes me wonder how many other people, how many other people were, I wasn't turned on by then. I was turned on when I was an infant, but that one was so shocking to me. So shocking. And so it's cool to hear your story about it, because, it's just another, as you like to put in your, I think it's your most recent book, connecting the dots, right? So
Yeah,
it's really amazing.
It's just another dot, and I can tell you a story. When you talk to me about tones, I saw that movie, and you got to understand that's the Holloman landing. I mean,
Yes.
the Holloman landing really did happen, and Eisenhower really did have meetings, and they were not little grays. They were people like us. In fact, I found out really that most of the ETs are like us.
Yeah.
I can tell like that. But I mean, Colonel Corso is my biggest story, and I'll talk to you about what he told me. But I want to tell you, because we went back to tones, and I had a contact meeting with Ricardo Gonzalez and all his people. They're all from Latin America. He's from Peru and lives in Argentina. And I've been there. I've spoken to 1,000 people in Argentina about my contact experience in Shasta. And I had 2 contact experiences in Shasta. The second one, I was terrified, only because contact is not that easy. People think you go up and shake hands. No, it doesn't work that way. It shakes your reality, just shakes your reality. Like, is this real? Am I seeing ghosts? You keep asking, is this real? Is this real? And so I was very upset about my reaction the second time in Shasta. I think it was 2017. So I was up in Crestone meditating near the stupa. Nick told me to go to Devil's Tower, Wyoming. And that's where Close Encounters.
Exactly. Oh my God.
It's go to Devil's Tower. I didn't want to go by myself, so 2 friends went with me. Julie and her husband Lori went with me. So it's a long drive from Colorado. So here I see this big mountain, just like the movie. And I'm going, wow, I finally came to see it from the movie. And at night, the forest rangers had this presentation outside on the bleachers of all the stars, just like you got them there.
Right.
And as I'm sitting with my friends, I said, I have to get over fear of walking in the forest, because that's what happened in Shasta. So I left the bleachers without saying anything and went walking in the forest under Devil's Tower, under the tower. And I'm walking and I'm going, I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid. I'm fine. I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid. And I got over the fear of contact in the forest. So what happened was my friend, Julia, said, where is she? Where'd she go? And she came running through the forest to find me, and she grabbed me by my arm. She grabbed me. The minute she grabbed me, I swear, Debs, she heard it, I heard it, we heard da 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 da.
Yeah.
And I heard
I believe you.
Da 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 real fast. I said, do you hear that? She said, yeah. I said, that's the confirmation that I got over the fear. She said, oh, there must be like a boom box in the forest. I said, no. You and I heard the music, and thank God you're here, so you don't think I'm crazy. But you heard it. And so when you say tones, you have to remember, I mean, we could have 50 million conversations on this. Music, tones, and vibration are all the same, whether the earth was created with that or whatever. But I find that music stimulates a lot of what goes on to raise consciousness. All kinds of.
It really does. So, I mean, it's sound technology. Let's just be honest. It's just like, I'm a lifelong yogi, and part of the technology of yoga is using sound, or what most people call mantra, chanting. You're using your voice to connect to a different layer of frequency. But when we do that, along with some other processes, before we try to go out and make human initiated contact, at least in the groups I run or help with, it's exponential, the effect that it has on the group for heart coherence and for coherence with the visitors. So I totally believe you that you heard those. I believe they gave that technology to us, as they've probably given all technologies to us.
But if you look at the fact that it's universal, it's a language, everybody that has contact, and I don't like the word abductions, everybody knows that. It's ridiculous. If you have contact, you're having it in Chinese, or you have it in China, or you're having it in Ukraine, or you're having Russia or Italy, or your things that are contacting you didn't go to school to learn your language. So what happens is two things happen: vibration, music, and what people call the ESP, or direct thought transfer. I call it direct thought transfer, in that it doesn't have to be in that language, but you get it. Whatever it is, you get it, no matter what language you have. And music is like that. Tones, that's why they use tones to bring down, to call the UFO in the movie, because those tones, particular tones were coordinated with, the longitude and latitude, but they were a language. It was a language that everybody can understand.
Yeah, I mean, all my life I heard the universal language is mathematics, and for a while I agreed, because I'm kind of straight down the middle between, spiritual and science. I'm a huge science buff and love to. I still study science, but there comes a time when our mathematics are so rudimentary compared to these people who have, come from who knows where, other dimensions, other, unimaginable places. But music is always universal. And I'm also prejudiced. I'm married to a musician. So, that it makes that sense. So,
and even now in 2025, we live in interesting times. Music is soothing. Music is what keeps everybody going. Music is universal. Music is a vibration. Music actually touches your soul. So that's Close Encounters. I mean, I didn't expect that, and it threw me into a situation with when I was working with Alan. And then I met his family. I know Paul Hynek really well. I've known him since he was 13, and he's at the conference in California. I'm at the Conscious Life Expo, by the way, speaking there too. And, so I've known Paul since he was 13. I got to know scientists. So at the time, I don't think at that time I could have dealt with what was inside the ship. What Alan would call me at night, and there was a map, and he asked me to put pins like around Indiana because there were sightings, and I was okay with that. As long as you didn't go any further than that, I was fine. I was okay. I didn't want to.
Most steps, right?
Because I wasn't educated. I was not educated. This is a study, whether people like it or not. It is not Disneyland. It is not a hobby. It is not, something on the side. This is real. This should be an academic study in universities, because we did not just have contact now. The 1950s, the giant rock group in Southern California with Howard Menger, George Adamski, 1953, who meets Orthon, who leaves his footprints there. So we know that happened. George Van Tassel, or all those guys were meeting space brothers in the 1950s and 60s. And my conclusion was 1950s and 60s with these guys, and Howard Menger in High Bridge, New Jersey, for God's sakes.
Exactly.
I just see where his house was, where he met the Venusians. Why were space people, there were no little gray aliens, coming to the United States in 1950s and 60s? My conclusion in Southern California is because we had Yogananda there, and we started the New Age movement. And so with Yogananda, the New Age movement, these people that came from wherever they came from, it doesn't matter. They said Venus because we understand Venus, but it could have been something else. It doesn't matter where they came from. People. I have photographs of Howard Menger with his arms around these people. These people came to try to raise the vibration of the new age, because we had Eastern philosophy with Yogananda. We had Maharishi, we had all of that. And it was all in California. So you're going to have, in Southern California and Landers, you're going to have a George Van Tassel who does the Integratron. You're going to have,
they're in a lot higher vibrational state. So their perception of what's always been here, we just, most people can't perceive them because they're not a vibrational match yet, but they're starting to be. And just a little side note, the main lineage, the one I'm initiated into from yoga, is Yogananda's Kriya lineage. So I have a great, since I was 13, I have a great affinity for that. And I agree with you, because the vibrational state of the people practicing that and other things that were similar, all in one place, California, it had to just set up a beacon, of light to these beings, saying, oh, there's some people who can actually perceive us. Let's go say hi. Or let's just say hi because they're there, right?
Well, yeah, I'm glad you see that, because I have to study this chronologically. And this didn't happen yesterday.
Mm-hmm. Right.
1950s was all the Space Brother movement. And then 1963 with Betty and Barney Hill abduction, then all the abduction stuff happened. Yeah. And I thought the CIA really jumped on that. Jaques has papers. I saw papers in Europe, and that to keep people under fear, then you don't, or you attach it to religious kind of thing. You don't have the minds and hearts you need to join us with whatever the star cultures. Right. So where those people go? Where do they go if they left? Because they left, the Star Brother movement left in the late, when the abduction stuff started. Right. So 1960s, they went to Chilca, Peru, to Sisto Paz Wells and the Rama group. And I went to the desert. I went to interview those people. And I went to Latin America, where what they call the brothers from the stars get off ships, actually meet with the people, and it's normal now. They don't have any problem communicating and getting messages from these star people. And it's not one or two people. I mean, when Sisto did his meditations and they fast, and I know because I've gone through this, fasting part is really hard, and camping is really hard.
I know.
For 5 days, they create the vibration of the landing of the ships. And I was also in the Atacama Desert in Chile when a mothership came over, and Ricardo Gonzalez had physical contact with these beings. So that's been lately. That's lately. But in the 1990s, 2000s, I couldn't handle any of that. I mentally, I was just doing data, and that was it. But I want to put two statistics in front of you.
Okay.
When I was with Colonel Philip Corso the day after Roswell, his book there was a lawsuit against it. So I was living in Italy from 1992 to 2007. I was teaching in a school in Rome. So I was able to go to the 50th anniversary of Roswell. I was able to bring Colonel Corso to Italy to speak twice. Wow. And it told me everything, that he worked on the Pentagon in the time of Robert Kennedy, 1961. So he was an intelligence. Of course, he told Robert Kennedy. Of course, he told Jack Kennedy. I mean, they're talking. Yeah. He was friends with Jean Dixon. In fact, he said of her books, he was getting royalties. That really blew me away.
Wow. I did not know that.
When he was working under, I could do a whole thing on Colonel Corso. I lived with him for 2 years until he died. He told me everything. I mean, talk about whistleblowers today. Nobody did. Corso did. Nobody had the back injury, and yet they ignore him. I never hear him mentioned. And I'm going, did you do your homework? I wrote a book about Colonel Corso called Conversations with Colonel Corso. It's
right.
on
Another
Amazon.
fabulous book. Yeah.
It's a
fabulous book, everybody.
tape recorder in my pocket. So everything, because all my interviews are word for word because I can't remember anything. But he said, this is for everybody to know, that in the Pentagon, they had categorized 52 different species of beings. 52. Said the ones we were afraid of the most. He said for him, there's an autopsy in the book I wrote of a gray that he had gone to Fort Belvoir and taken a pencil and compared the human body with that. That's in the book. He said he thought that was artificial intelligence. He said what he was worried about was the ones that look like us, the Valthors, the ones that look like us, that would be walking in the halls of the Pentagon, you couldn't tell the difference. That's what he was worried about. Okay, they were worried about them because, of course, they consider them spies.
They didn't know anything about them, right?
Also, they consider them spies. If you can't tell there's an alien sitting in front of you, you know, that looks exactly like. And then I went to do all the work on Valthor. I went to do all the work on other human-type beings in Latin America. I mean, 1979, a spaceman walks in the Ecuadorian embassy and says his name is Van Ju, come up and see my spaceship. And they all walked out and they saw his spaceship and he had a spaceman's suit on. This is in America. We don't know this. We don't know these stories because everybody seems to think that ufology is American. Everything that happens here is no.
Americans are so self-centered, aren't we? It's just, you know, everything revolves around us. We're like the pre-Newtonian or Galilean people who think the sun revolves around us. It's heinous, really. But people should be reading every one of your books, and we'll put the titles up, you know, in post-production here for people so that they can actually see them, because there is an energy in your books, Paola, that touches people, not just the absolutely pristine investigative reporting and research that you put into them and the way you tell the stories, but there is an energy in those books that affects everyone who reads them and I believe helps them have better contact.
Well, what it is I'm a teacher. So, Debs, if I'm teaching you, and I used to teach Shakespeare, I used to teach American history, I used to teach, American literature. If I'm teaching you about Steinbeck, I'm going to teach you everything about Steinbeck. I can't just take one story. And that's the problem with ufology is nobody bothers to study it. If they did, they would go back to the 1950s. They would go back to Van Tassel, Menger, Adamski, Orfeo Angelucci. They'd go back to those people. They'd see what was going on. And then they'd go to Latin America because then that whole Rama group, the ones from Bolivia, I mean, you know, ships are coming out of Lake Titicaca and in the Andes. I was in the Andes, you know, so, and it's easier for them, Debs, because they have a culture. They have the Aztec and the Mayas, and they believe people come from the stars. It's easier for them. It's easier for them. And I'll tell you a really quick story that you could, when I was with Ricardo Gonzalez and that crew in Peru, I was going back to the mountain of Huascan, where the Apunians have a base. I was going there. It's really, it was over 10,000 feet of altitude. In fact, I heard a lot. And we were in B&B. And I was under the mountain of Huascarán, where all Ricardo Gonzalez, talks about the Apunian base, that they had warned there was going to be an earthquake there, and there was. And so I went into the B&B, and the lady was making us sandwiches. And, she was an older woman, and she was just making sandwiches. And I said, do you ever see the space people that are in that mountain? And she says to me, oh, yes. They came to speak to my children when they were 10 years old.
Neat.
And they came in person, speak to your kids. And she said, oh, yeah. And my husband sees them sometimes when he takes the trail up the mountain. And
just matter of factly, like nothing important.
She didn't say, I want my own TV show. I'm going to be on the stage. Everybody's going to. I'm telling you, ETs don't have contacts, so you could have your own TV show, make tons of money, and meet. That's how
I think I have to say, too, from my experience, from my personal experience and my experience with people like you and so many others, I think of someone like Chris Bledsoe, the ones who really have the deep contact don't have their own TV shows, at least for a long time. They're usually disparaged by society, exiled by their families, told they're crazy, made to look like fools for a very long time. Maybe it's changing. I hope it's changing that environment. But I take everybody I meet at face value. If they tell me they've had contact and want to tell me their story, I'll take it at face value. And that's how I know if they're trying to be all me, and, I'm going to do this and that with this, then I'm a little bit skeptical. But there are some people who are starting to do that just because they've had a calling from their contact. And I think that's the next level that's happening, but for years, you're in the background, you're just doing all this stuff, working relentlessly in, I hate to say it, but in a man's world, probably, being pushed down all the time and not taken seriously.
Well, that's been the biggest problem, actually. It is a man's world. My colleagues, Linda Howell, Leslie Kane, and have done great work. But it's really difficult because for me, though, my agenda is I just want to know. I mean, I just want to know what's going on, and I can't even give you a definitive answer. But I find that my work in Latin America, where it's normal, just, you go to the Chilca Desert, you talk to people that have had normal contact with what they call the space brothers and sisters, and you go to Peru, you go to Bolivia, you go to places. I can see where they went there because people right there are open. And the people are also very spiritually aligned with the planet, with Mama Pacha. The planet is not separate from us. Whatever you're getting, storms and everything, is a reflection of the humans that are living on the planet. The planet is upset because humans are upset because the human species has a long way to go before it's evolved enough. I think evolved enough even to have major contact with the stars. I remember asking. I remember asking Edgar Mitchell at lunch. I said, "Do you think we're ready for contact?" And Edgar Mitchell, Apollo 14, walked on the moon. He was a great friend of mine. And I said, "Do you think we're ready for contact?" And he goes, "No way." He said, "People are over borders. They're fighting over everything." He said, "Unless we come together as one species," he said, "it's not even worth it." Because the idea of China or us or anything putting a flag on Mars. I mean,
that tells you where we're coming from, right? Still coming from a place of ego, possession, obsession, control.
I'm going, you go there to put a flag on Mars? Even the idea of the American flag on the moon when there are already beings there. And I know that because I talked to Ingo Swann, who did remote viewing.
Yes.
The one person, I think, in the field, from Uri Geller, Ingo Swann, Russell Targ, I know them all, and they're friends. They're people that I've had to ask questions about, too. And when I asked Ingo Swann, I said, and if you people start reading, please start reading.
Yes.
Get off the podcast stuff. Ingo Swann's book, Penetration, it's his remote viewing with the CIA, including Antarctica. And he said there was mining on the dark side of the moon. So when I saw him, I said, is there a really non-human intelligence on the dark side of the moon? And he looked at me and he said, also on the light side.
Yes.
And so what I'm getting that you're talking about my work is from the horse's mouth. So Of course, I'm going to read 300 books. Of course, I'm going to read everybody's research. I'm not going to just read my book and figure out I know the truth. But my colleagues do not do that. They have not read Trinity. We have given Trinity to some of the top level people in the field, and they haven't bothered to open it up. Why is Trinity important? Because during the atomic bomb, when we, and by the way, Einstein and Oppenheimer knew we had visitations. Yes. They wrote a letter to Truman before Roswell called Relationships with Celestial Bodies. And it's an MJ-12 document that I could give you if you want it. It's 6 pages of these visitations, and they call them cosmic cultures. And who had that document is Ryan Wood. Ryan and Bob Wood were the greatest researchers. Ryan Wood's just written a book called The AI Ufologist that everybody should have in their library. He put all the information in there with AI and then asked the questions that AI answered from having a database. So if you're not reading anything, if you didn't read the original book, then what are we doing? Having an opinion on nothing. So penetration was the name of Ingo Swann, and he was the greatest remote viewer ever. Book. So naturally, I'm going to ask him a question on a book. And everybody that I've done the research on, I've had to read their book. Otherwise, what am I asking? It's a matter
just regurgitation of what you've seen, like on a headline or nowadays social media, which that's just a free for all of regurgitation. As far as I'm concerned, there's very little substance there. You have to really read the books, talk to the people.
Well, the original book from the original person. Like the original, Ingo Swann book. I mean, Russell Targ written 4 books. I met Andy Buchanan, Russell Targ, helped talk. I met all of these guys, these scientists. They're friends of Jaques also. I've read all Jaques' books. I've read, I know when I was in Rome, when I was in Italy, that's when my career started because I had worked with Alan Hynek. So they thought, she worked with the godfather of UFOs. We'll just bring every conference. But on my own, with my own funds, I brought over, and who else, they say, George Washington slept here. Well, in my apartment near Rome, I brought over Linda Howe twice. I brought over Richard Dolan. I brought over Jesse Marcel Jr., the 9-year-old that had the pieces of Roswell. Do I know Roswell's real? Not because I read a book, but because the 9-year-old whose father brought in all the stuff came to my apartment in Rome with his family, his wife and kids.
Wow.
I brought Travis Walton twice. I said Travis. Richard Boylan, Ryan Wood. I brought over so many people, Lynn Katai. I brought over people with my own money to talk to the Italians. And they'd have to stay in my house. So I learned from Travis early on that no work had been done in the forest around the rings around the trees.
Yeah.
That he said, Paula, you're so good at what you do. You're looking at the actual situation. He said, the rings around the trees were growing faster after the so that meant radiation did something. Yeah. You can prove it happened by the rings in the trees too.
Right.
So I began to, and my books are word for word because I began to put 2 and 2 together, or you can say connect the dots.
Connecting the dots, right?
Connecting the dots, so you can connect the dots. So in the last part of my research, when I moved back to the United States in 2007, I went to see Clifford Stone, crash retrieval. He did 3 of them in Vietnam. Right. And he also said to me, he didn't find any of them hostile. And he thought they were cosmic anthropologists.
Yeah.
And one case in Vietnam that I'll tell the people about, that he told me about, was he was sent over there with a bunch of other, because he had ESP when he was a kid. He was following him. His mother was charging $10 for psychic readings from this kid who had ESP. So the government is going to be interested in anybody that has ESP. You can ask Chris Bledsoe this too. I mean, they know who has contact. So, he didn't have a book, so I helped him publish his book because he talked to a tape recorder, but he told me that there were 57 different species, and all we talk about is greys, reptilians, and Nordics.
No,
and I'm going, what is this? Cliff,
why would we even think that when look at how many different types of humans we have on this planet, Well,
it's ignorance.
The universe.
And it's ignorance. And I said, how do you know? And he said, I had a first aid manual.
Yeah. Nice.
You had a first aid manual with 57 drawings of different species you might have to give first aid to? And he said, yes.
Wow.
So when people, like some people come, they're here to harvest your souls. They're here to, they don't need to harvest anybody's souls. They don't need to do anything. They just need to. And in the case, and why I want to talk about the Vietnam case is because Clifford, who's in the Army, most of the people I interviewed are military people, were told to go into this cave and grenade it and blow it up because there were ETs in there. And the ET he described was like an amphibian-looking ET with a frog-like skin and gills. Right. So it doesn't fit into your reptilians, greys, and Nordics. So he said when he went in there, because they had to throw these grenades to kill, what he saw was a clear screen where those beings were watching the Vietnam War. Wow. And he said, beings turned around and said, "What are you people doing here?"
Wow.
This comes out of Clifford Stone's mouth, who was there. I'm not making up stuff.
No, I've heard him tell tales like this, and his heart is so pure, or was. It still is, but when he was in the body, there was this vibrational state that you got from him. He's just such a pure person. I could never think that he would make something like that up or embellish anything like that. He's just a regular person.
He can't, because the guy was, they're military people. They can't. Yeah. The reason why Clifford Stone even came out was because his son, Robert, who was one of twins, was killed in an automobile. And he was on a motorcycle. A truck hit him, and he thought that he was killed, but he wasn't. It was a real accident. But that's when he went to Stephen Greer's Disclosure Project, because he was angry. So people that break their national security oaths are usually angry. And in Clifford's case, he had a son killed. And so he decided to come. And to me, everybody just ignores that in an area where they believe that the government is telling disclosure. Why don't you go back to the Disclosure Project in 2001, where he said that he let an ET go. And then he said that he had interrupted, he told me the details of that later, because I wanted to see how that happened. And it was, he said it was the Pentagon. So then I thought, holy, I mean, what we don't know. And he said, apart from the fact that people with ESP and extra powers are being looked at and being observed and so forth, and in Clifford Stone's case, he joined the nuclear biological unit when he was 16 out of high school, and he had scoliosis, and he wasn't even supposed to be in the Army, but they were using him. And so for me to be with these actual people who actually did it and are actually telling the truth without any judgment, because he was very Catholic. I mean, I remember he didn't eat meat on Friday. So it was like he wasn't attaching it to a religion. He was basically saying, this is what I did. These beings are here. There's 57 of them. They are when he said anthropologists, and it made sense because as an academic person, I could see why we're being observed, or you want to call them the watch or whatever. And we're not the only ones. I was just down in Mexico City, and I swear to you, all the videos I saw were coming out of Ukraine, China, and Russia. And we haven't seen them here. We don't see them here.
No.
And the videos were part of Jaime Maussan's, and he's got a 5-story glass building that does nothing but UFO collecting.
I know.
Nothing. So these videos come in every day, and I'm watching a video over Israel being shot at, of a UFO over Israel. And people don't go, oh, there's no more sightings. What do you think, that this is a game? They're going to go to the hot spots.
Yeah.
They're going to watch what the wars are. They're not coming to your backyard to see you playing with your dog.
No, they're concerned about what we're doing, and with good reason. It doesn't just affect us. What we're doing, children playing with matches and gasoline, it affects the dimensional world, the interdimensional world. It affects everything because everything is connected. It's not. We are not this little isolated sandbox. We think we are, and we don't even think about the consequences, never mind the consequences globally of what we're doing, or even community-wise, but cosmically, and that's the message they keep giving me is, we have to help you get over this threshold of self-annihilation and, the control, the fear-based stuff. You have to start working with each other, or you'll just never be able to join this community because you're too dangerous. And I dare say too ignorant.
But I thought about it a lot because you're talking, ufology is history because this stuff happened. I could list it. There's so many sightings. Go to MUFON. It's history. The history of the planet. It is not some hobby you have. And so to myself, why is this planet interesting? And the reason might be is because the other places, if we're talking about interplanetary, it's also interdimensional, it's also paranormal, so you got all of this stuff going on.
Right.
But the extraplanetary might be that this planet is an experiment in free will. In other words, other planets have a cosmic consciousness, a collective consciousness.
Right.
I mean, for Christ to say, love your brother as yourself, like, which ones don't you love?
Exactly.
It was very simple. I mean, that's a collective consciousness, whether you like it or not. If you play the collective consciousness game, you're not going to hurt other people.
No, you're going to try to get along and try to make things better for the whole collective, right?
For the whole collective. And he tried. Of course, we kill everybody that says, we kill John Lennon, Imagine, we kill everybody that's, Gandhi, we kill Christ, we kill Paul. And this planet could probably survive if it developed some kind of collective consciousness instead of an individual selfish consciousness.
Right.
But they would have to realize a lot of things. You talked about NDEs. They'd have to realize that you don't die.
Exactly. Rule number one.
Yeah. They have to realize the karma. They'd have to realize, if they realized all that stuff, then they wouldn't be so happy to jump on a one lifetime, let's much money and live a comfortable life and do all of bad things.
Yeah.
If they realized that human beings are a piece of the cosmos, then, that would change everything. And why we can't have, the Val Thors of the world come down, come back, is because we create religions around these great masters. And
everything, right?
Yeah, religions destroy everything. Separate us.
They're a part of the old paradigm that no longer serves, and that's what I am always being told by the teachers, the star teachers who I channel and who talk to me, or my guides. Like, until you can stop this whole us versus them paradigm, this labeling, this sectoring off of different belief systems and cultures and borders and all that, you're just going to be stuck. But they do say we do it. They say we do it. We've done it on some frequency. We just have to jump over that threshold to get there. And I think that's why they're here, is to help us find those crumbs, to get to the gingerbread house of that. But it takes doing things collectively and getting past our differences. And in fact, utilizing our differences in the proper way. We all come with gifts. Why can't we figure that out? Well, I don't know. Eventually we do, I think. But I wanted to ask you, Paola, because you've mentioned like the people in Peru and the Rama people and how amazing their contact is because of their beliefs and their cohesiveness. Do you have a specific practice for yourself to keep your vibrational state high, to keep going and doing what you're doing, and to have the incredible contact you've had that I've heard stories about? What do you do in your day-to-day life to maintain that and keep yourself lifted up?
I act like a kid.
Yes. Awesome. I love it. Playfulness is wonderful.
And I just love. You have to be able to say wow at least 5 times a day.
Yes. Yeah. I agree with you. Everything is a wonderful experiment.
I don't meditate. I don't do anything I'm supposed to. I take a walk. I've got birds outside my window that I feed and I talk to.
Awesome.
I love the Trolls. I go see the Trolls movie. I love rock music. I like pop rock. I love. I'm watching 3 hours Korean drama every night. I don't watch American television at all. I don't believe in rape, killing, and and horror stuff. That brings down a vibration. So I'm basically a romantic. I watch either Korean or Chinese fantasy. I love kung fu. I love to watch sword playing and the Chinese kung fu dramas. I celebrate everything. I live like it's the last day, and and I love food. And again, if you're not saying wow to something, and we have the mountains here, and they're filled with snow. It looks like Tibet. It's beautiful, and I go wow. Or you see a beautiful flower, and you go, oh my God, look at the color. Or you have to say, I love cotton candy. I mean, you have to have one thing you love a day. Otherwise, why are you breathing?
What's the point? No, I agree with you. I've always said, if I ever figure out what I want to do when I grow up, I'll probably be done, because I don't want to grow up. I want to be that innocent child who goes out to play with no agenda, and everything is an adventure and everything is a wonder. If you just the other day, you were talking about the snow. We had a huge blizzard in Kansas City several weeks ago. We still have snow on the ground from that one blizzard, but the sun was hitting it. I was out just, breathing and looking at the trees and everything. And there was this pristine snow in my backyard, and the sun was coming up, and it hit the snow in such a way there were countless gems of rainbow light from the spectrum that really I've never seen before, other than in, my inner travels, just coming off of those little crystals of snow. And I bet I stood out there for a half an hour, even though it was freezing, just barely breathing and looking at it, because it changed, it shifted with each second of the sun's movement. And I'd never seen anything so incredible or beautiful in my life. And do you know, as soon as I stopped looking at the snow and looked up, I saw craft. It was just so cool, because I was in a higher vibrational state. I wasn't even thinking about the space brothers and sisters, but our hearts were coherent because of that sense of wonder. So I love hearing you say that you play as your spiritual practice. It's just so simple, isn't it?
I use a lot of logic. I mean, I'm not way out there. People realize now I'm not there. But logically, you incarnated on this planet. Why aren't you enjoying cotton candy? Why aren't you enjoying ice cream? Why aren't you going out and smelling? I love the smell of the street. I mean, why aren't you using your senses? You were born here. You could have gone somewhere else. When people start complaining about planet Earth, I could have gone somewhere else. Why did you come here? And my fear is that the only way we can come together is with the tragedy, and I don't want that to happen. I mean, if you have an asteroid coming and you take out half of the United States, you're going to have a kumbaya moment. Everybody's going to come together. Everybody's going to love each other. You'll forget politics. I don't want it to do that. I don't want that to happen. I don't want people to naturally
gravitate to that, right?
Well, I really can't predict the future, but I stay away from negative. You hear I'm not talking about politics. You can't win there, okay?
No.
The way
a ridiculous pursuit.
Is not play the game. You can't argue with people. You cannot try to convince people of anything because you never have. So then you have to take people as people. They're people. Go take them out and have a beer or go for a walk or do something where you don't get into a separation mode, because if you do, that is the thing that brings this down.
Exactly.
Whoever's watching, whoever the watchers are wanting us to come together. And if they're not going to do it for us. They want to raise consciousness. They want to say, hey, grow up. It's enough. You played around enough. You're back in the Cold War, 1960s.
Yeah, give me a break.
I actually took a hammer, took a piece of the Berlin Wall down. I happened to be there. I've been all over the world. I've been to Lourdes. I've been to Fatima. I've been to Switzerland. I've been everywhere. And my favorite place, by the way, is Japan. I was in Japan in April. I want to go back so badly. The Japanese people are beautiful.
They are beautiful.
To all the temples, giving lectures to people that have a background. These people have a cultural ancient aliens background. For them, it's like South America. It's like we already know.
It's woven in the tapestry of their lives. It's just not even anything new, or different or surprising.
It's part of the culture. They're not, UFOs. Like, what else?
Yeah. What's new with you, right?
I know. The thing is, I want things to change, but if you ask me, how are they going to do that? I have no idea. I just know that in our little microcosm, I don't want tragedy or catastrophe to bring us together.
Why would we go that route? I mean, it's so ridiculous when we have so many other avenues. I wanted to just talk a little bit about, you're coming to Delavan, Wisconsin to the Contact Modalities Expo in May. And you have so much to share. I don't even know how you're going to get it all done.
Talking about disclosure, because the only person that I know that I can tell you, and this is a story that people should know, is I'm very close friends with Demi Lovato, the singer.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, right.
She contacted me because, she died at 26 or something. She had a heart attack and a stroke. So, and then she came back and she started filming UFOs all over the place, and she started sending me the videos. And I'm going, okay, people that go into that other dimension have that experience.
I've had two, and I can tell you it does enhance it.
Yeah, because they go to that dimension, they shift back and forth. That's the only thing near death that I can talk about. So I don't think that's the title of my talk. If it is, I got to change it.
Yeah, it's on the schedule, so you need to talk to her about it. But whatever you present is going to be so riveting. I hate to say it, most people are just going to funnel into that that ballroom where you are, because
what I'm going to talk about is data, 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 and then my journey into consciousness. And I will go on record and say that the only people whose work I follow right now are Dr. Stephen Greer, with whom I was in 2 of his movies, but I've been with him at CE5 experiences, and Grant Cameron, who is brilliant, brilliant, my God. He's got it all. Answers to all the questions. And Colin Andrews, who wrote a book people don't even, read any, called The Edge of Reality, where he and his wife went, oh yeah, crop circles, crop circles, crop circles. It doesn't matter who crop circles. It is the image that they projected even on the circle makers that raised consciousness. It's the image, isn't who makes them. And that book, The Edge of Reality by Colin, everybody should be reading anyway. But and then when you talk to Colin, I was with him in San Benito, I've been with him in Rio Rico in Arizona. These are the people that want to know like me, and then they came to the conclusion it is consciousness raising. But it's people like me started out nuts and bolts, nuts and bolts. Give me that. Right.
Most people did. I didn't know anything about ETs when I was a baby, and they were just people. They were just like, spirit or in-dimensional people were, what people would call ghosts. They're just people. You're a child. You're taking it literally. They're just people visiting you in your house or out in the yard. Who knows, So that innocence, I want to keep that innocence, because that keeps me from putting labels on these beings and these experiences. But to get back to the expo, I think you're kind of just like this lightning rod for people, or as the Rama people call it, the antenna, right? I have no doubt we're going to have amazing contact there, but it's about the fact that we're having contact with things that we keep labeling as different things, and it's all consciousness. It's just different layers of being, different facets, different faces, whether you call them ETs or angels or orbs or, reptilians or whatever. They're us on a different level, and it's all consciousness. So what we're trying to figure out, at least myself and some of the people who are there, is how do we allow ourselves to perceive even more of this? Because it's who we really are. And I think of all people in the world, who has the most experience and data to give us proof that that's true, it's you.
No, but the answer, we just said it to each other. The answer is remain a child. They know everything.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
yeah, and by the way, I wanted to tell you, Clifford told me, because I was with them so many years. My God, I got so many. Colonel Corso told me that when he was a little boy, Colonel Corso was a contactee. Okay,
right.
So he was like Barry in connecting the dots.
Exactly.
He would go in thunderstorms. Okay, and once he said he was playing marbles on the road when he was about 4 years old, and the doctor came with a town car and ran into him, and he appeared and disappeared. And the doctor, a little 4-year-old, to his Sicilian grandmother, and said, he doesn't have a scratch on him, and I hit him with my car.
Wow.
So Colonel Corso already was a dimensional jumper. He already got it, and he happened to be the head of intelligence room, 1945. So these are relatable people. He's Army, remember, he's just Army. He's got relatable people who've had paranormal experiences. And Clifford Stone told me that he started with an invisible friend. He made his mother put an extra plate at the table. So I'm going, okay, I never had that. Never had an invisible friend. I never asked my mom to put an extra plate at the table. But I was also very close to Dr. John Mack. I mean, he was in my apartment. I forgot to say that. He also, I gave him
my hero.
Brought him to Florence, and I had a heart connection with John Mack. unfortunately, he lost his a cell phone. He lost his cell phone and his camera at the forum. And I came home and he was talking to my mom, and I was, oh my God, they ripped him off, and I felt so bad for him. But I was very, very close to him, and we had these long talks, and he also gravitated from to just from sheer contact, which seemed like abduction, to contact and consciousness.
Absolutely.
Because you have to change your mind. If you're studying something, you just get the beginnings, and then you study it some more, and then you change your mind. And then you study it some more, and then you change your mind. If you're stuck in a box, you're never going to learn anything. You have to be outside the box.
Yeah.
You have to. Because,
expanding your horizon of awareness, right?
Yeah, because I was talking to Jaques Vallee the other day, and he said to me, well, they're not using science. I was saying, Jaques, what kind of science do you want to use?
Yeah.
Which science that we have today do you want to use?
Yeah. Because none of it fits, from whence that's coming. I mean, it's so rudimentary. But
so Colonel Corso used to say, we have to change science. We've got to include the paranormal, or what we think is the paranormal, because in some cultures it's already integrated, and they're the ones that accept UFOs. The people that have shamans, the people that do spirituals, they accept it because they know it's a dimensional thing. So we don't have to convince them. I mean, I'm getting so tired of these the real truth is coming out of Washington. No, that ain't happening, because they don't know.
No.
How can they tell you if they don't know? This started way back in 1945. Who's still alive,
I know.
So if they don't know, you're switching administrations every 4 years. Nobody, they want to know. They're trying to look at it. They're connecting their dots. In fact, I always said, read my book and you'll figure out a lot of it, because it's word for word what was to me. But they don't know. What are they going to do? What can you say to somebody? I don't have the answers. And if you're thinking outside the box and it's outside the box, then what kind of explanation can you give everybody? The only thing I truly believe, Debs, is it's an individual disclosure. It's an individual search.
I was just going to say, direct experience is the only real teacher, right? And so what's exciting though, Paola, and I know that you're noticing this too, there just seems to be, it's ramping up more and more and more and more and more people are having direct experiences. And now a lot of them are not afraid to talk about them in public. And I mean, this is what I see in my work. You talk about Dr. John Mack, who's like the reason why I do what I do. I'm a hypnotherapist and I work with these people. I work with all people, but it seems like the last 3 to 5 years, this is kind of my thing. But they're just coming out of the woodwork, and they're telling even people who they weren't interested in it. It was just like, it happened and I don't understand it. And yet they're telling me the same kind of thing with different variables from the person I just talked to a couple hours before or a couple weeks before. So there is something really happening to give us all direct experience with this consciousness. And I'm really excited about it. And I think when we can put the data together, such as what you've gathered over a lifetime so meticulously, and give it to the people who've had direct experiences, we're going to have some sort of a revolution. And I don't mean it as a bloody revolution. I mean an enlightenment revolution about, and just an insight of what is real. Finally, we will see what's real. I don't know. That's just my thing, but.
Oh, are you going to be speaking? Are you speaking?
Yeah. I'm actually doing, for the first time, I've been doing this work for over 45 years professionally. For the very first time, I'm going to do a hypnosis session live on stage there, and we're going to talk about this. with a surprise guest. And then the other presentation I'm doing is to have a gallery where people can interact with the star teachers. I'm just going to channel. They're going to give us a message, and then they're going to open the floor to questions. So I am doing 2 presentations there. But the main reason I'm there is just to be with all of these great people, such as yourself, and soak up even more knowledge, because that's what I do. I'm like, Miss Pac-Man. I just want to more and more and more and more and more. And I want to dance with you at your 80th birthday party.
Yeah, no, by the way, I love Pac-Man. That's my game. No, my birthday, yeah, it's
a couple days after, right? But
yeah, it's basically, there isn't anything you can do about age. But what I'm hoping to accomplish is, and all my archives have been shipped to Rice University in Houston with Whitley Strieber, Jaques Vallee, John Mack, and with Clifford Stones. And I read and read the original stuff. If I had 300 books and I did all the reading to figure it out, to connect dots, and I talked to people, then take this seriously. Take this as an academic subject. My dream would be to teach in the university. My God,
Same.
I'm a teacher. I have a master's in education. I could teach. I could break off everything and teach, about time travel. I could teach about, what they told me. I interviewed Dan Burish, the J-Rod at S4, Michael Wolf, Charles Hall, a weatherman at Dogbone, Indian Springs. I've interviewed these people who actually, it's really hard, I'm telling you, Deb, because I'm sitting there going, oh my God, this is real. How do I wrap my mind around this? This is not something in my reality I was brought up with or I understand. So I love to just teach. I do teach online classes for Dr. Michael Salla. I do teach that.
Exopolitics. Yeah.
I teach 4 classes like that. But in standing in front of students in the university and having everything that I collected would be my dream come true, because then it gets taken seriously.
Yes.
It's
I
media.
No, I mean, people at this point right now, people are like, nobody knows what's real and what's not. We've gotten to that place in the media. And so, and I was in academia for a long time myself. And so I know how that feels. And I would love, as I, get into my elder years, I would love to be able to serve as a teacher like that at a university and be taken seriously about these subjects. But who knows where we're going to go, Paola, because that's something the teachers keep telling me is it's going to happen, but don't look for it to come the way you think it's going to happen. It's going to show up from left field, and it'll be pretty spectacular. It'll be pretty, shocking maybe, but we have to have, as a collective, we have to have a pattern interrupt, or we're just going to annihilate ourselves. And what's the point in that? So having said that, I want to ask you something that I ask all my guests. Do you have, with all of this history, all of this research, all of this amazing experience that you have collected in this amazing lifetime, do you have kind of a message for the world? Do you have advice for people about what to do with all of this?
Well, my first advice is be authentic, be yourself. Don't be afraid of anything. Be yourself. Realize that you incarnated on this planet, so enjoy all the tastes, all the food, all the music, all the smells, everything. Enjoy life. Live for the day. Live in the present time.
Yes.
Educate yourself on what you have a passion about. Educate yourself. Do not use all social media, the podcasts and everything as truth.
Yeah.
Educate yourself from the source. Go to the original book about Einstein, the original book about the person, and let them talk to you, because they're no longer with us. Clifford Stone isn't with us anymore, but he wrote Magic Eyes Only. I mean, he wrote Eyes Only, and it's Eyes Only, his book.
Eyes
and
Only, yes.
And get what they left behind. But in the end, just enjoy your life. Enjoy your life. This is not, something that's supposed to bring you down. It's something that shows that you are part of something bigger. And the bigger part is the consciousness we were created in. The consciousness, like Stephen Greer, is one. It's just one consciousness. So learn to be part of that. And then go out and look at the stars every once in a while. Now, I know it's cold, but, just go look, because that's the real reality.
Yeah. I find that the colder it is outside, the brighter the stars are anyway, because the atmosphere is a little clearer, at least in the city where I live. So, yeah, always, look up, but look in, right? They're with us. They're always with us. Well, Paola Harris, I wish I could talk to you all day long. You're such a wealth of experience and knowledge, and you're just delightful. But we do have to leave. I hope everybody will come and meet you and listen to what you have to say in person at the Contact Modalities Expo in Delavan, Wisconsin. It's May 2nd through the 4th. You can see on the marquee here how to get tickets. The tickets are going very fast, but it's going to be one of the most special occasions because you're there. We're going to be celebrating you, and we're going to be discovering lots of different ways to make contact with, non-local consciousness or the higher versions of ourselves, whatever you want to call it. But thank you so much for being with us and giving us your time and your extremely vast body of work. What a legacy you have wrought already. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Oh, thank you. We're going to have fun.
We are. And we're going to dance. All right. Thanks for being one of the hidden variables, not so hidden in this case, making such a difference in our world, Paola. We appreciate you so much. And I'll end by saying in Lakesh, which is the Mayan language, says, I am another you. So in Lakesh, thanks.